Manga is pretty great. It as a medium has consistently produced some of my favorite stories of all time, for example including JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Attack on Titan, or My Hero Academia. However, we in the West have always had a bit of a hard time getting a hold of these stories. If you were around in the mid-2000s, you likely remember how much Western anime and manga consumption was based on fan efforts, be it translations, subtitles, or scans. At the time, these were simply the only way to consume the content, as official sources rarely existed and were still playing catch-up. However, things have changed quite a bit since then. More and more official releases for the Western market have appeared, but fan-led sources, now illegal alternatives, also continue to pop up and grow. So now we, as readers, find ourselves in this weird situation where both fan and official works are available. But what do we choose? What do we do when we both have these options? In this video, I, the Ocean Man himself, would like to present the benefits and qualities attached to seeking out official releases, as I believe that these are the better options, and I will also be talking about how you can go about doing so. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way immediately is that I am not going to judge you. I simply cannot know in what situation you live in, and what reasons you have to not be using the official release. And because I cannot know, I simply cannot judge. And a second disclaimer for this is that I am not sponsored. Viz, Shonen Jump, they're in no way or shape or form paying me or sponsoring this. This is purely out of my own initiative because I am a huge quality whore, and I am very particular about how I consume my favorite series. Now, with that out of the way, I think we can move on to talking about why the official release is so important. And one first point to consider is the actual people that bring us these stories, the mangaka. Now, mangaka is a job that we in the West cannot really imagine, because it really does not exist over here in that capacity and in the way it does in Japan. So, to quickly illustrate how a mangaka even makes money, the way it essentially works is that for a given period of time, a mangaka is paid for a certain number of pages. So let's say a manga produces 20 pages per week. Then he gets, for that week and for those 20 pages, a flat amount of $500. This is a made-up number, but let's just imagine that's how it is. And then they also get royalties from the tankobon releases or the volume releases. This is estimated at around 10 to 15%, but obviously it's not easily publicly available. Now, that's $500 for 20 pages a week. That's 10 to 15% per book. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed that that is not a lot. That is in fact very, very little compared to the work that they have to put into. And that workload is immense. Don't mistake that. Hunter x Hunter's Yoshihiro Togashi once famously put out a formula for calculating the amount of free time a mangaka will have per week. And while the formula is obviously very odd and very specific and more of an illustration, it is a very good illustration because it does show that this is a very extreme lifestyle, one where you have to sacrifice vast amounts of your life and your time to create these stories. And in conjunction with the already incredibly high cost of living in Japan, I, at least personally, have always found that it is important to support these people. They are doing creative, hard work every day of their lives until their series is finished or they get cancelled, and they just don't make a lot of money to begin with. So I'd say it's valuable to consider supporting them officially. But okay, enough about the mangaka. Let's talk about us, the customers, the readers. What is the benefit for us to seek out the official releases as opposed to fan translations? And for that, we need to talk about visuals. Now, this is kind of difficult to discuss because if you've been reading fan scanlations for your entire life, then you might not even know what I mean. But what's important to understand is that fan scans often are released before the official release. That is done by acquiring the magazine in which the chapter would be released earlier than its scheduled release, usually either through an accidental early release by a company or a kiosk, or by other illegal means. And often the people who have these early chapters, leakers, don't have access to high quality scanning devices, or oftentimes they're just in such a hurry to scan these things to get the spoilers out, because of course everyone is always fiending for spoilers, that they cannot really take care about scan quality, often having them look relatively weak and kind of just looking like people took pictures of books. To compensate for that, they often crank up the contrast to make the whites whiter and the blacks blacker. That way, everything becomes clear and it looks more like a proper scan. And while that may sound good, it does have a fatal flaw. When you crank up contrast like that, you lose out on a lot of detail, because all the blacks start mixing with each other and all the whites starts mixing with each other. But to illustrate this, let's look at an example from My Hero Academia. I've erased the text so there's no spoilers. All you need to know is that Shigaraki is fighting a big bad boy. And let's look at this page from a fan scan. Now, you might look at this and say, this doesn't look that bad. I don't really see the issue. And honestly, by itself, yeah, it's passable. But then you consider the official version, and the difference is kind of startling. Let's focus specifically on the lower panel, the one with the big bad man. Look at how much detail is lost in the fan version. Look at the slant of his eyebrow. Look at the details of his facial expression. That is all detail intended by the mangaka that is lost due to this simply inferior scan. And you can say, okay, I prefer the full blacks of the fan scan, subjectivity is subjectivity, I won't judge you for that, but it is hard to argue that you're objectively losing out on details that the author intended to be there. But okay, enough about visuals, let's talk about something else, something even more crucial. Translations. If you're anything like me, you don't speak Japanese. If you're anything like me, you rely on English translations to understand some of your favorite series. And therefore, translations, quality translations, are tantamount and instrumental to understanding what we're even reading. And of course, translations, fan translations, and official translations have all gotten better over the years. We don't have any Du-Wang translations anymore. However, that is kind of nefarious because yes, they're not obviously bad, but now you won't notice when they do something fucky. So who do we trust for translations? Well, for years we had to rely on people who just spoke Japanese, people who were able to write and typeset and translate Japanese for us in the mid-2000s. But it's now almost 2020 and we have better options. Now, sources like Shonen Jump, Viz Media, they offer the work of highly talented, trained and certified translators, people whose entire job and craft is to translate all the nuances of Japanese into English. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I personally would trust someone with that sort of certification over a few young teenagers just translating chapters for fun. This is not to undermine the work that goes into translating a chapter by yourself, absolutely not, but people like Caleb Cook are simply qualified. They have gone through training, they have been certified, and they are hired and paid to do this. Case in point, again, a scene from My Hero Academia. This time I can't blur out the text, but I will blur out names so that you don't get spoiled. Look at the phrase here in the fan translation. I killed him. The fact that I killed him. That is a definitive statement that the person in question has killed someone else. Now let's look at the official version. I might as well have killed him myself. That is a completely different implication. That implies a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, and makes this a lot more of a complicated matter than just, oh, I killed him. And now imagine this kind of problematic approach to translation being stretched onto an entire series. So, let's say this video has convinced you. What do you do now? Well, there are a couple of options, and depending on where you live, the way to get official sources is more or less fucky. But luckily, we have some pretty good options if we're talking about the Shonen Jump family of manga. Now, the Shonen Jump family of manga is most likely the majority of manga that you care about. That includes One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, My Hero Academia, JoJo, Dr. Stone, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Jujutsu Kaisen, and many, many more. These are all part of the Shonen Jump family of publications, and they are all available through 2 apps that were put out just about a year ago. So let's talk about them. Now, the first app that I want to mention is the Shonen Jump app, which you have access to if you live in any of these areas. I hope I'll remember to edit this in. Now, this app is by far the best way because when you first open it up, you have the chance to read the first 3 chapters and the last 3 chapters of every series available on the app for free. This is perfect if you're already caught up to My Hero Academia or Black Clover or whatever and just want to read the new chapters weekly as they drop on Sundays. And you can do that for completely free on your phone or on your tablet. But the real magic with this app starts when you look into its monetary model. Because as we talked about, mangaka need money, and I think it's not too much to be considerate. Again, no judgment, but I personally always think like that. So, when you open up the subscription service for the Shonen Jump app, you'll see that for $2, $1.95, depending on your currency, but it's around $2, you have access to what is called the Shonen Jump Vault, which effectively means that for $2 a month, you get to read every chapter Shonen Jump has ever produced. With a slight asterisk, but we'll get to that. But for $2, you can read the entirety of One Piece, the entirety of Naruto, the entirety of My Hero Academia at your leisure. You can download the chapters, and you have access to so much, with the only stipulation, the only asterisk, being that the vault is manually updated, which means that not every chapter is on it yet. For example, Kimetsu no Yaiba is, as far as I'm aware, still missing some of its chapters, but it's continuously updated and the catalog just grows and grows. So for $2 a month, you have access to, I would say, about half or more of all series that you care about. Which honestly, considering that if you were to buy them physically, like I have them over here, would cost like about $15 per book, that is really, really good. $2 a month, that is not a lot. Obviously, again, I don't know what your financial situation is, I don't want to judge, but $2 a month really is on the affordable side, I would say. Now, if you're not living in any of the aforementioned areas, things get a bit more complicated, but there is an app that can, again, help you with it. And that app is Manga Plus by Shueisha. It is developed as a counterpart to Shonen Jump for the rest of the world, and it basically really is. When you open it up, the free version of it is exactly the same as the Shonen Jump app. You have access to the newest chapters and the first chapters for free. Again, if you just want to keep up to date with the series for free, this is the best way to do it. But once you want to binge a series and read all of it, things get a bit more complicated, as in Manga Plus, you have to buy digital volumes, whose prices I simply cannot tell you because they will vary depending on your area. However, they're usually still more affordable than physical volume. And overall, I think that both Manga Plus and Shonen Jump together make up an incredibly strong package that everyone who cares about consuming manga in a qualitative manner should at least check out. And honestly, that's already it. As I said, this was just a very quick personal video that I care about because I care about quality. And I also think that as fans, and in my case as someone who makes content on YouTube about this stuff, it is just good to have this back and forth with the mangaka to support them for their work, as we enjoy their work a lot, supposedly. But yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I know this is a bit different, seeing my face and everything, but I hope you got something out of this. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you all in 2020. Or maybe earlier. Bye. This is the third time my audio has messed up. Whoop wop boo bow. I am slowly going insane, losing my mind. God, just let the pain stop. Woo! Help.